The great academy of warriors stood like a shining tower at the edge of the alien city. Its halls were filled with voices in the day, with laughter, with pride, with the sound of boots striking the polished floors. But when the last class ended, when the lights grew dim, the wide halls turned cold and silent. Two alien twins often stayed behind when everyone else left. They were tall for their age but thin, their frames weak compared to other students. Their silver skin looked pale under the dull lights, and their glowing eyes carried shadows of fear. No one clapped for them. No one believed in them. The teachers said they lacked the power needed to win. The other cadets whispered, they should not even be here. Yet the twins stayed, walking slowly through the empty halls, carrying training staffs too heavy for their arms. They tried again and again, striking at practice targets, their hands shaking. Sometimes they fell, sometimes they dropped their weapons. Each failure echoed in the halls like a cruel reminder. That night, when the moonlight touched the tall windows, a sound broke the silence, soft footsteps dragging across the floor. A man with a gray uniform holding a mop and bucket appeared at the corner. He was the human janitor, an ordinary worker ignored by most. His hair was messy, his hands rough from years of cleaning floors and fixing broken lights. He was not a warrior, not a teacher, just the man who stayed late. The twins froze, thinking he might mock them too, but he only paused, leaning on his mop, watching them with calm eyes. He did not laugh, he did not shake his head. Instead, he asked in a quiet voice, "Why are you still here?" The older twin tried to answer, but words caught in his throat. The younger one spoke, her voice soft but full of pain. We have to try. If we leave, they will say we gave up." The janitor looked at the dented staff lying near their feet. He slowly walked closer, the bucket rolling on its wheels. His boots squeaked on the floor. "Try as much as you want," he said. "But if you keep doing it wrong, trying will only hurt you." The twins frowned, confused. They expected another insult, but his tone was steady, almost kind. He set the mop aside, picked up the heavy staff with one hand, and spun it. With surprising ease, the twins blinked in shock. They never thought a janitor would know anything about fighting. The man placed the staff back in their hands and whispered, "It's not about strength, it's about balance, watch." He showed them how to stand firm on their feet, how to keep their shoulders loose, how to breathe before swinging. The twins copied him, their movements clumsy at first, but something strange happened. Suddenly the staff felt lighter. Suddenly they could strike without stumbling forward. The older twin's eyes widened. How did you do that?" The janitor chuckled, his voice low. "I may not wear armor, but I've watched enough of you young ones to know what they do wrong. Cleaning these halls every night shows me more than you think." For the first time, the twins felt someone believed they could do better. The human janitor did not call them weak. He did not say they were failures. He only said, "You just need to learn the right way, not their way." The sound of his words stayed in their hearts. A simple man, standing in the shadows of an academy that never cared for him, was offering something no one else had given: hope. Outside, the city lights burned bright. Inside the silent halls, the twins tried again under his quiet watch, step by step, strike by strike. Something small but powerful was being born. Not strength alone, but belief. They did not know it yet, but that night was the first step towards something the academy had never seen. The twins were no longer alone in the silent halls. A human janitor, unseen and unwanted by others, had stayed late, and because he stayed, everything was about to change. The next evening, the academy emptied once again. The sound of marching boots faded, doors slammed shut, and the great halls grew still. Only the dim lights above buzzed softly and shadows stretched across the training floor. The alien twins returned carrying their staffs with tired hands. Their bodies ached from the endless drills, but their eyes carried a strange fire. For the first time, they felt someone had seen them, someone who did not laugh. And that someone was not a teacher, not a warrior, but the human janitor. He was already there, pushing his mop across the far corner. His bucket squeaked as it rolled. He looked up when the twins arrived. His lips curved into a small smile. Back again? Good. The older twin hesitated. We thought maybe you could show us more. The janitor leaned on his mop, thinking. He was no coach, no officer. He had no right to train students. But he saw the desperation in their glowing eyes, and he remembered how the others mocked them. He sighed softly. All right, but only if you listen carefully and no excuses. The younger twin nodded quickly. We'll listen. We promise. The janitor picked up 2 long broom handles from his cart. He tossed them to the twins. First rule, he said. Forget the fancy techniques they feed you. You don't need them yet. What you need is control. Without control, you're just swinging wood in the air. He showed them a stance so simple it looked almost foolish. Feet apart, knees bent, shoulders loose. This is your ground, he explained. If you lose your ground, you lose everything. Balance keeps you alive. The twins copied him, awkward at first. Their knees shook, their arms stiff. He walked around them, tapping their elbows, shifting their feet. He corrected every mistake with patient eyes. Not like that, loosen here, breathe, don't fight your body, work with it. Minutes turned into an hour. Sweat rolled down their silver skin, their glowing marks dimmed with exhaustion. Yet the janitor's steady voice kept guiding them. Finally, he placed his own broom handle on the floor and clapped his hands. Enough for tonight. The twins looked at each other, confused. But we haven't even fought yet, the older one said. The janitor shook his head. Fighting is the last thing you learn. If you can't stand without falling, if you can't breathe without panic, if you can't move without stumbling, then no blade, no staff, no weapon will save you. His words sank deep, more than the drills of their teachers, more than the insults of their rivals. These words felt real. As they gathered their things, the younger twin whispered, Why are you helping us? You don't even know us. The janitor paused, staring at the mop in his hands. His eyes carried a weight, as if remembering something old. Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, to work hard and still be told you're nothing. You remind me of myself. Silence followed. The twins stood frozen, hearts heavy with something they could not name. Respect, maybe, or gratitude. Night after night, the secret training continued. When the academy lights dimmed, the janitor stayed, teaching them small tricks with simple tools. He made them carry buckets filled with water to build strength. He made them balance on slippery floors to sharpen focus. He even turned cleaning cloths into targets for precision strikes. Other cadets never saw this. They went home proud while the twins stayed behind with the man who swept floors. Each night, their steps grew firmer, their strikes sharper. Their fear slowly turned into belief, but whispers began to spread. A guard once spotted the janitor standing near the twins, correcting their stances. A few older students laughed when they saw the twins carrying buckets like children. Look at them, they mocked, training with a cleaner instead of a master. The twins lowered their heads, shame burning inside, but that night when they met the janitor again, he simply said, Let them laugh. Noise is easy. Work is hard. Which one do you choose? The twins answered without hesitation. Work. The janitor nodded. Good. Then ignore their voices. One day, their voices will go silent. The days of secret training stretched into weeks. The twins no longer trembled when they held their staffs. Their bodies still thin, but their movements carried a new rhythm. Their hearts beat not with fear, but with quiet strength. And in the shadows of the academy, where no teacher cared and no student looked, something impossible was beginning. 2 rejected twins, guided not by a master but by a human janitor, were slowly becoming something greater than anyone dared believe. And the first test of that change was closer than they thought. The academy was never silent during the day. Laughter, shouting, and the clash of training weapons filled every corner. In those loud moments, the twins felt small again. Their secret training with the janitor gave them strength. But in the eyes of the others, they were still weak, still the ones meant to fail. As the weeks passed, whispers began to grow louder. Cadets sneered when the twins walked by. Some covered their mouths and laughed. Some whispered just loud enough for the twins to hear. They train with a janitor, not a master. Pathetic. They'll never win. The words cut deeper than any blade. The older twin clenched his fists, his jaw tight with shame. The younger one tried to keep her head down, but her glowing eyes dimmed. Each insult pulled them back toward the shadows of fear. During practice drills, their rivals made sure to humiliate them. A tall alien cadet knocked the staff out of the younger twin's hands with a single blow. He smirked and said, "Run back to your cleaner, maybe he'll mop up your tears." The class laughed. The sound echoed in the hall, sharp and cruel. That evening, the twins almost didn't stay behind. Their hearts were heavy, their pride broken. When they saw the janitor pushing his cart, they stopped at the doorway. The older twin muttered, Maybe they're right. Maybe we are wasting time." The janitor looked up slowly. His tired eyes studied them. He leaned on his mop and asked calmly, "Did their words break your bones?" The twins blinked. "No," the younger one whispered. "Did their laughter stop your heart?" the janitor asked again. "No." "Then why do you act like you're already defeated?" His voice grew firm, not cruel but steady. "You let words control you. That's weakness, and weakness is something we train to leave behind." The twins stayed silent, shame burning in their chests. The janitor set the mop aside and picked up 2 buckets. He filled them with water and placed them in the twins' hands. "Hold these, don't drop them, not for 1 hour." Their arms shook within minutes. Pain spread through their muscles. Their legs quivered. Sweat dripped down their necks. The weight felt unbearable. The younger twin cried out, "It hurts." The janitor nodded. "Good, that's how you know it's working. When the world mocks you, remember this pain, this is real." Their words are not. The twins clenched their teeth. They held the buckets until their arms felt like fire. And when they finally put them down, they looked at the janitor with tears in their eyes, but something else burned inside them too. Anger, determination. "Again tomorrow," the janitor said simply, and went back to cleaning. Days passed. The whispers grew. Some cadets even told the teachers, "The twins are wasting time with a janitor. They don't deserve to be here." The teachers shrugged. They had already written the twins off as failures. One night, after training, the younger twin broke down. Her voice cracked as she whispered to her brother, What if we never win? What if all this is for nothing?" The janitor overheard her. He walked closer, his steps slow, his voice softer than usual. "Listen to me. Winning is not about what they see. It's about what you choose. You can choose to quit now and prove them right. Or you can choose to fight until your last breath and prove yourselves right." The twins exchanged a glance. Their hands tightened on their staffs. Something shifted inside them. They were still afraid, but fear no longer held the chains. The next morning, during class drills, the same tall cadet tried to mock them again. He struck at the younger twin, expecting her to drop her staff like before, but this time, she held her ground, her stance steady, her weapon firm. The sound of wood meeting wood cracked through the hall, and for a brief second, silence followed. The cadet's smirk faded. He shoved harder, but she did not fall. The older twin stepped beside her, backing her up. For the first time, the laughter of the others wavered. Whispers filled the room again, but they were different now. Some were still cruel, but others carried doubt. "Did you see that? They didn't fall this time." That evening, when the twins met the janitor again, they told him what happened. He only gave a small nod. "Good. But remember, holding your ground once is not enough. They'll push harder next time. And you must be ready." The twins nodded, their hearts stronger than before. But deep inside, the whispers still lingered. The academy still looked at them as weaklings. The rivals still laughed when teachers turned away. The pressure grew heavier, and a new trial was approaching, one that would force them to prove themselves, not just to the academy but to everyone watching. The whispers of doubt were not finished. They were only beginning. The academy masters gathered the students in the wide training hall. Bright lights shone down from the ceiling, reflecting off polished steel floors. A heavy silence fell as the headmaster spoke, his voice cold and sharp. "Tomorrow, Every cadet will face the endurance trial. There will be no breaks, no excuses. Only those who last will move forward. The students cheered, fists raised, their confidence echoed across the hall. But the alien twins stood quietly in the back, their hearts pounding. For others, this was a chance to shine. For them, it was a storm waiting to crush them. That night, they stayed behind again, their staffs leaning against the wall. The janitor pushed his mop, listening as they explained the trial. His eyes narrowed slightly. He knew what this meant. Hours of running, fighting, lifting, pushing, while the whole academy watched. The older twin muttered, "We won't last." Not against them. The janitor stopped, leaning on his mop, his voice calm. Endurance is not about strength. It's about refusing to quit. Your body will beg you to stop, but your mind decides. If you listen to fear, you fall. If you listen to your will, you rise. The younger twin frowned. But what if we collapse? The janitor gave a small smile. Then you crawl. If you can't crawl, you breathe and wait for one more second, and then another. That is endurance, 1 second at a time. His words sank deep. The twins trained harder than ever that night, carrying buckets until their arms shook, running laps across the empty hall, striking broom handles until their hands blistered. Every step, every strike, the janitor whispered, "Don't stop, just one more." When dawn came, the trial began. The students lined up in rows, the air buzzed with excitement. The masters stood tall, waiting to watch who would fall first. The first challenge was a long run across the training grounds. Cadets sprinted with power, their boots thundering. The twins started slow, already behind. Laughter rang out. They won't last 5 minutes. But the janitor's words echoed in their minds. 1 second at a time. Their legs burned, their lungs screamed, but they did not stop. Step after step, they kept moving. Not fast, not strong, but steady. Hours passed. Students began to drop, some too proud to pace themselves, some too weak to endure. But the twins still ran, sweat soaking their clothes, glowing eyes dim with exhaustion, yet they refused to fall. The second challenge came, lifting heavy stone blocks, stacking them higher and higher. The strong cadets rushed ahead, showing their muscles. The twins struggled to lift even the first. Their hands shook, their backs screamed, mocking voices returned. Pathetic. Why don't they just quit? But the janitor's voice whispered in their minds, balance, control, breathe. They remembered his lessons. They did not fight the weight with pride. They lifted slowly, carefully, block by block, not fast, but steady. As the hours stretched on, more cadets dropped out. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Others shouted in anger when they could not continue. But the twins endured, pain carved into their bodies, yet they pressed forward. The final stage of the trial came. The cadets had to fight in pairs, one after another, until they could no longer stand. It was not about victory, but survival. When the twins stepped into the circle, the crowd laughed louder than ever. This is where they break. The first opponents came hard and fast, their strikes heavy. The twins staggered, nearly falling. But together they remembered the janitor's lessons. Stand firm, trust your balance, don't panic, blow after blow. They held on, not perfect, not graceful, but unbroken. When one fell to a knee, the other helped them rise. They leaned on each other, refusing to give the crowd what it wanted. Minutes turned into hours. Stronger cadets gave up, their pride crushed by exhaustion, but the twins still stood, battered and shaking. When the bell finally rang to end the trial, only a handful of cadets remained on their feet. Among them, the twins. Silence spread across the hall. For the first time, no one laughed, no one whispered. Even the masters raised their brows in surprise. The older twin looked at his sister, eyes filled with tears. They had not won, but they had not fallen, and in that moment they knew. The janitor had been right. Endurance was not about glory. It was about refusing to quit. That night, as they returned to the silent halls, they found the janitor waiting. He looked at their bruises, their torn clothes, and the light in their eyes. He gave a small nod. You endured. The twins bowed their heads. Because of you? The janitor shook his head. No, because you chose not to quit. But deep inside, he felt something stirring, something he had not felt in years, a spark of pride. And he knew this was only the beginning. The academy did not rest after the endurance trial. The masters believed that true warriors must be tested again and again. They announced the next challenge during the morning assembly. The great hall shook with the sound of drums as the headmaster spoke. His voice carried through the cold air. In 3 days, every cadet will face the survival match. It will be fought in the arena. Teams will battle until one side cannot stand. Only the strongest will advance. The students roared with excitement, their voices filled with pride and hunger for glory. But when the twins heard the words, their hearts sank. Survival match was no ordinary test. It was brutal, dangerous, designed to crush the weak. That night, they met the janitor in the silent halls. His mop leaned against the wall. His eyes studied their pale faces. "What is it?" he asked. The younger twin's voice trembled. "The survival match. We will be crushed. They'll put us against the strongest." The janitor nodded slowly. He had seen this before. He knew the academy loved to break the ones nobody believed. And yes, they will, he said. They want you to fail, they want you gone. The older twin clenched his fists. Then what's the point of trying? We can't win. The janitor walked closer. His rough hands rested on their shoulders. Listen to me. Winning doesn't always mean being stronger. It means refusing to give them the ending they want. If they want you to break, then your victory is standing even when you should have fallen. The twins stayed quiet, his words sank deep into their hearts. 3 days later, the arena was filled. Tall stone walls echoed with the cheers of hundreds of cadets. Masters stood high in the seats, watching with sharp eyes. The sand floor glistened under the lights, stained by battles of the past. The twins stepped into the arena together. Their bodies shook, not from the cold, but from fear. Across from them stood their opponents, the academy's strongest cadets, warriors with broad shoulders, sharp weapons, and cruel smiles. One of them spat on the sand. "This will be quick." The match began with a thunderous horn. The rivals charged like beasts. The first strike hit the older twin, knocking him back. Blood spilled from his lip. The crowd cheered, waiting for the collapse. The younger twin screamed and swung her staff, but it was blocked easily. She was thrown to the ground, the sand filled her mouth. The laughter from the stands grew louder. The twins fought desperately, but every blow from the rivals was like a hammer. Their staffs cracked, their bodies bruised. The janitor watched from the shadows of the far wall, his hands clenched into fists. He could not interfere. He could only hope. Minutes felt like hours. The older twin stumbled, barely able to stand. The younger one crawled to his side, her eyes filled with tears. We can't do this," the crowd screamed. "Finish them, end it." The rivals raised their weapons for the final strike, but in that moment the janitor's voice echoed in their memory. "If you can't stand, crawl. If you can't crawl, breathe 1 second at a time." The older twin pulled his sister to her feet, their bodies broken but their eyes alive. Together they raised their cracked staffs, their stance weak but unbroken. The rivals attacked again. Blow after blow rained down, but the twins did not fall. They staggered, bled, and screamed, yet every time they hit the ground, they rose again. The arena fell into silence. The laughter faded. Whispers spread among the crowd. Why aren't they staying down? How are they still moving? Finally, the headmaster raised his hand. The horn sounded to end the match. The twins collapsed side by side on the sand, not defeated, not victorious, but alive. The rivals walked away, confused and angry. They had not broken the twins. They had not given the academy the ending it wanted. The silence in the arena was heavy. For the first time, the cadets who mocked them had no words. Later that night, in the empty halls, the janitor found the twins lying against the wall, bruised and barely able to speak. He knelt beside them, his voice low but steady. "That was your victory. You endured their worst and you are still here. Remember this pain, because it is the proof that you can survive anything." The twins looked at him with tears in their glowing eyes, their voices weak but certain. We didn't win the match, but we won something greater. The janitor nodded, his heart heavy with pride. Yes, you won yourselves. But deep inside, he also knew something darker. This was not the end. The Academy would not forgive their survival. The next test would not just aim to break them, it would aim to destroy them. The survival match was supposed to end with the twins broken. Instead, it ended with them still breathing, still standing. Their enemies walked away with victory, but the crowd had seen something else, two weaklings who refused to stay down. The masters of the Academy were not pleased, they whispered among themselves. Their sharp eyes burned with anger. If they cannot be broken by shame, we will break them by fire. A week later, the announcement came. The final trial will be held in the arena of fire. The voice of the headmaster echoed across the courtyard. Only the strongest teams will enter. Only the worthy will leave. The words spread like sparks through dry grass. Cadets whispered in fear and excitement. The arena of fire was infamous. Its walls were high, its floor covered in shifting sands, and at its heart burned giant flames that leapt from hidden vents. Many cadets had left it scarred. Some never left at all. The twins listened with heavy hearts. Their bodies, still bruised from the survival match, the younger twin whispered, "This time, we may not survive." That evening, in the silent halls, they met the janitor. His mop stood in the corner. His eyes watched them carefully. The older twin's voice cracked. "They're sending us into fire. We can't fight flames. We can't fight monsters like this." The janitor leaned against the wall, his voice calm. "Fire burns the proud just as it burns the weak. But fire can also be used. You don't fight it. You move with it. You let it reveal who panics and who endures." The twins looked at him, confused. The janitor picked up 2 buckets, half filled, with water, and made them run while carrying them. The water splashed, their arms shook, but he shouted, "Don't spill it, control, control. Fire is chaos. Your control is your shield." For nights they trained, running with buckets, dodging sparks from torches he lit in the dark hall, balancing on slick floors. Their fear of flame became focus. Finally, the day came. The arena of fire roared with sound. Thousands of cadets filled the seats. Flames shot into the air as the gates opened. The twins stepped inside, their hearts racing. The heat wrapped around them like a living beast. Sweat already formed on their skin. Across the arena, their rivals waited. The strongest cadets, bigger, faster, crueler. Their eyes glowed with arrogance. One shouted, "We'll burn you to ash before the crowd." The others laughed. The horn blasted. The trial began. The ground shifted beneath their feet as vents hissed. Fire burst from the sand in sudden waves. The heat was suffocating. Every breath felt like swallowing smoke. The rivals attacked first, rushing with blades and staffs. The twins staggered back, dodging strikes while avoiding bursts of flame. The crowd roared, expecting them to fall quickly, but the janitor's lessons echoed in their minds. Control, balance, breathe. They moved together side by side, their feet steady even on the shifting ground, their eyes sharp even as fire blinded them. One rival swung hard at the younger twin. She ducked, and at that moment, a jet of flame burst beside him. He stumbled back, his sleeve catching fire. He screamed as he fell, rolling in the sand to put it out. The crowd gasped. The twins didn't strike him down. They didn't need to. The arena itself had become their ally. The fight raged on. Flames burst in random places, turning the ground into a trap. The rivals grew reckless, shouting in frustration. They swung harder, faster, but panic showed in their eyes. They slipped, they stumbled. The twins moved with patience. Every dodge, every strike was small, controlled, not proud, not desperate. Slowly the fight turned. But then came the crushing moment. A rival's heavy staff slammed against the older twin's chest. He flew back, crashing to the sand, his breath ripped from his lungs. He lay still, firelight flickering. Across his pale skin, the younger twin screamed, running to him. The rival raised his weapon again, ready to finish it. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for the end. In that instant, the younger twin's mind filled with the janitor's words. If you can't stand, crawl. If you can't crawl, breathe. 1 second at a time. She stood over. Her brother, staff raised. Her arms shook, her legs burned, but she blocked the rival's strike. The sound of wood against wood rang like thunder. She screamed and pushed forward. Her brother stirred, coughing. His eyes opened. He saw her standing for both of them, and with trembling strength, he rose again. Together, they faced their rivals. Weak but unbroken, the flames roared higher. Sparks lit the night sky. The twins moved as one, striking not with power, but with rhythm. Their staffs cracked against the ground. Their rivals stumbled. The crowd, once mocking, now sat in silence. When the horn finally blasted, the fight was over. The twins stood, battered and burned. Their rivals lay scattered in the sand, defeated not by strength, but by endurance, control, and unity. The arena exploded with noise. Some cheered, some shouted in disbelief. But all had seen the impossible. The alien twins had survived the arena of fire. From the shadows, the janitor smiled, his mop leaning beside him, his voice whispering so only he could hear. "I knew you could." The twins bowed their heads, not to the masters, not to the crowd, but to the man who had stayed late when no one else cared. And though victory was theirs, they knew the final truth. The Academy would never forgive what had happened tonight. The victory. Nobody expected the arena of fire had ended, but the storm inside the Academy had only grown stronger. The masters had watched with cold faces as the twins stood victorious, beaten but unbroken. Their rivals had fallen, the flames had not claimed them, and the crowd had witnessed something unforgettable. Yet instead of praise, whispers filled the halls. The Academy could not accept what had happened. It was luck, some said. They should have burned. Others muttered, "A janitor's tricks, nothing more." The twins walked through, those whispers with their heads lowered. Their bodies ached, their clothes torn, but their hearts carried something new, a fire no one could take. Still, doubt pressed against them, for if the masters refused to see, had they truly won anything? That night, the janitor found them sitting alone in the silent training hall. The moonlight spilled across the floor. Their staffs lay at their sides, forgotten. He stepped closer, his boots echoing softly. "Why the long faces?" he asked. The older twin's voice cracked. "They say it was luck. They say we didn't deserve it." The janitor crouched down, his rough hands resting on his knees, his voice calm but sharp. "Do you know what they fear most? Not your weakness, not your failures. They fear the truth that you proved, that even the ones no one believes in can rise. And once the crowd has seen that, they can never unsee it." The younger twin whispered, "But what if they crush us again? What if this ends here?" The janitor shook his head. "It won't end here because you already carry what they can't take: endurance, unity, belief. That is your victory." His words struck deep. The twins felt their hearts steady. For the first time, they realized the fight was no longer just about proving themselves to the Academy. It was about proving something greater. The next morning, the final ceremony was held in the grand hall. Cadets lined up in rows, banners hung from the high ceiling. The masters stood on the stage, their faces stern. The headmaster's voice echoed, "The trials have ended. Those who remain will be honored as warriors of this academy." One by one, names were called. Cadets stepped forward proudly to receive their emblems of honor. When the twins' names were spoken, the hall grew silent. No cheer, no applause, only the weight of disbelief. The twins stepped forward, their steps slow but steady. They stood side by side before the masters. The headmaster held their emblems in his hands but did not smile. "You survived, though none expected it," he said. "Some call it luck, some call it shame. But rules are rules. Victory is yours." He placed the emblems in their hands. The crowd stirred. Some hissed, some clapped softly, but none could deny it. The twins bowed, not to the masters, but to the shadowed corner of the hall, where the janitor stood leaning on his mop. His eyes met theirs, pride shining quietly, whispers spread like wildfire through the academy. How did they do it? Was it really the janitor? What does this mean for us? The story of the alien twins and the human who helped them began to move beyond the walls. Later that night, the twins met the janitor in the empty training hall one last time. Their emblems glowed faintly in their hands. The older twin spoke, his voice steady. "We never could have done this without you." The janitor shook his head. "I gave you tools, that's all. You chose to fight. You chose not to quit. That choice was yours." The younger twin's eyes shimmered. "Still, nobody believed we could win. Except you." The janitor smiled faintly. "Sometimes one believer is enough." Silence filled the hall. The kind of silence that carried meaning. The twins felt something heavy lift from their hearts. They were no longer invisible, no longer the weaklings left behind. They were warriors, born not from power but from endurance and trust. The academy could whisper all it wanted, but the truth could not be hidden. The twins had won, and everyone knew it. And in the quiet corners of the great hall where no master ever looked, a human janitor leaned on his mop. His back sore, his hands rough, but his heart lighter than it had been in years. He had stayed late, night after night when no one else cared, and because of that the impossible had happened. The alien twins had become champions, not of the academy, but of themselves, and in the end, their story would be remembered as the victory nobody expected, except the human janitor who never stopped believing.